Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment of our program is brought to you by Madisonville Marine. Since 1976, there's been no better place to buy a boat than Madisonville Marine. Their selection of boats is unmatched, literally. More makes and models than anyone else in the area. Their prices are so good that they ship boats all over the country. That is an honest-to-God truth. Their customer service department, best in the state. Anybody who's ever dealt with them loves them. MadMarine.com to learn more. Madisonville Marine on Highway 411 North in Madisonville. If you want to check them out in person, I suggest you get down there and do it. Madisonville Marine. All right, let's take a look at the future foes on Tennessee's schedule. Tennessee Tech lost yesterday, didn't score against Furman. They were whipped by about 40 points by Samford the week prior. So not a big concern next week. Yeah, toss it. Florida with the win. Kentucky beats Missouri. Well, you can see it for yourself. Vanderbilt with the win at Colorado State surprised me a little bit. Gentlemen, looking at those, anything stand out to you? I mean, nobody really played anybody good. Kentucky, Missouri is probably the one you can take most from, but your thoughts on anything good, bad stood out to you?
Harder, in my opinion, for Tennessee to beat Kentucky. Kentucky's got a pretty good offense.
Yeah, and when you look at that and you go, how many sacks can this team actually pull off and get pressure when they have a quarterback? That makes it present more of an issue for you this year.
Anything stand out to you guys as it relates to Tennessee from these future foes?
No, I mean, Kentucky and Missouri are just two of the most interesting games this season, and their game last night, I think, emphasized that.
Okay. Well, then let me ask you this. We said going into the season this was going to be that swing game. Well, it swung the wrong way for Tennessee. You had a better shot to win it than I would have expected, considering how poorly you played at times, but you did lose it. Has that changed anyone's view on these other games that Tennessee has coming up? And I guess a side element to that would be it kind of depends on how you view Pitt in relation to some of these other SEC foes. Mm-hmm. Do you look at them and say, they're better than Missouri, they're neck and neck with Kentucky, a little worse than Ole Miss, or how do you view Pittsburgh? But my question is, from what you saw yesterday, does that impact your predictions on any of these games moving forward?
I think Pittsburgh is a quality opponent. I think they're up there with Kentucky, Missouri, and those kinds of things. I say who I really think you're going to struggle against. Ole Miss is probably a definite loss in my mind now. So I think.
And then Alabama, Georgia, Florida are off
the table. That's off the table. We're not talking about that, right? So I haven't been talking about that all year, right. But those are off the table for sure. So I mean, I think it comes down to I think this team can play well and beat a Missouri and a South Carolina. I don't think they'll beat Ole Miss. It comes down to the Kentucky game in my mind of where you're going to be.
Which is at Kentucky this year. Gentlemen.
To me, there were three swing games, and Pitt was one of them. Missouri and Kentucky were the others. And if you can clean it up, you could have beat Pitt, right? So if you clean it up, you can beat Missouri. However, can you clean it up? I don't know the answer to that. I haven't really changed my projection on where I think Tennessee's win total could be, but I do think that they show the potential to be a pretty decent team if they can eliminate the many mistakes they had against Pitt.
Yeah, it's just going to make it that much more difficult to find those 6 wins if you're trying to have a 500 season. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to almost upset somebody that you weren't, and Missouri is going to be one of those key games.
If they get to 6 wins now,
yeah,
that's a hell of a job.
You about have to beat
Pitt. If they beat Missouri, they can do it.
I don't see them. You're talking
you
about.
don't see them beating Missouri.
I don't see them doing. You'd have to win several of your 50-50 games, I would think.
Just one.
Well, I'm back to thinking Vandy might be. Here's what I look at with Tennessee. Well, here's the thing. We see what this roster is. I warned about the depth all offseason. That was my big bugaboo. It's why I picked them 5-7, because I wonder what's this roster going to look like at the end of October and into November. I thought when Vandy lost to ETSU, okay, you could have 5 guys and you can roll your helmet out and beat Vandy. Won a game yesterday on the road. I didn't think that was possible. I've seen Tennessee's depth. It doesn't make me feel good about where things are going. So I would consider Vandy, Missouri, South Carolina. I don't think South Carolina's a gimme. You do, right?
Not a gimme. I think Tennessee will beat them.
Right. I'm more in the all the SEC games. I'm not giving them any of them at this point.
I'm giving them Vanderbilt.
That would be the closest. That would be the closest. But I still worry about. Well, let's put it this way: if Bailey transfers and Milton's hurt, you got one quarterback. What happens if Hooker gets hurt? Then I'm your quarterback.
Callaway.
Callaway's you're running. So, Josh, your predictions, anything change based on Pitt?
No, preseason I said 6-6. My thought was lose to Pitt, and Tennessee would need to go 2-1 against Missouri, Kentucky, South Carolina if I'm giving them the Vanderbilt game. So that's still on the table. Not easy by any means, but very possible.
People always, when I do the prediction thing, it's always, well, you're negative. Think about this, though. How well has that paid off for me over the last 2 or 3 years? The whole negative thing, being positive doesn't really pay off for you.
No, it does not.
And on that front, let's talk about a perfect segue as we talk about the Chucky Casino and our Beat the House contest. That is next, going back on the Sports Source. That's good.